Let's move on because for Manchester United fans, it's Christmas morning. They're playing Barcelona in the Champions League tonight, and I'm delighted to say we've got Andy Mitten with us. Andy, how are you doing? How are you feeling this morning?
I'm tired, excited, just about to enter Barcelona airport and fly to Manchester for the game, so I'm expecting the flight to be busy with Barca fans. I'm sick of seeing Manchester United and Barcelona play pre-season. I'm really glad to watch them in a proper game of football. And I wouldn't say I'm too optimistic. I'm probably as optimistic as I was going to Turin in November or Paris in March. And I watch Barca a lot. I probably watched them 25 times a season. I know they're brilliant. I know their strengths, their weaknesses. I know that Messi is in incredible form. And unfortunately, so is Luis Suarez as well. But by the time that game kicks off tonight, Old Trafford will be rocking. There'll be a huge amount of anticipation, and I just hope United turn up. I thought the first half against PSG was very good. United held their own before being outclassed in the second. But if you go back to Sevilla a year ago, United were they never started, and this hush descended on Old Trafford, where the fans were thinking, we didn't realise that Sevilla are actually that good. Juventus were also the better team at Old Trafford in October, and probably Valencia as well in that 0-0 draw. So this tie, it's a present. It's a Christmas morning. It's a gift which nobody expected because that result against PSG away was such a surprise. But Manchester United against Barcelona in the Champions League quarter-final, I'm glad that's happening tonight than not happening.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got the cover story in 442 at the moment. It's a behind-the-scenes look at what's going on at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Manchester United. Some of the interesting tidbits from that is the relationship between, obviously we know there's a great relationship between Ferguson and Solskjaer, but Solskjaer's leaning into that relationship as opposed to in any way kind of trying to be his own man and cutting Ferguson out. It's like fully aware that this is a resource to use as opposed to something to be scared of.
Yeah, and he speaks to him on a regular basis, but I heard some people say before I wrote the piece that Solskjaer was Ferguson's puppet. It's simply not true. He is his own man. And while Solskjaer deflects attention and says, we're part of the group, it's all the coaches together, the club are also adamant that actually you're the manager, you're the man who takes responsibility here. But if you're Solskjaer, why not use Ferguson? You've got this brilliant mind living 5 miles away, and someone who knows the club, knows the players. It'd be a shame not to use it. Louis van Gaal, he felt that he didn't want the ghost of Ferguson hanging over him all the time. Jose Mourinho invited him back to the training ground, but Fergie didn't really take him up on that. You know, Mourinho was respectful, he was reverential towards Fergie, but Fergie kept his distance. But now he feels if he wants to take people down to the training ground, then he can do. And I think it should be like that for someone like Sir Alex Ferguson. And Solskjaer needs all the help he can get because he's got a very, very tough job. We've seen with United losing 3 of the last 4 games. They're not all there. They're not at the level of Manchester City or Liverpool. They pulled out these great surprise moments, and not just in Europe, but in the Cup, beating Arsenal and Chelsea away. But there's a lot of room for improvement in this team. And United have played Wolverhampton Wanderers 3 times this season and been outclassed in each of those games. They weren't one-off matches. They showed that Manchester United need work.
Yeah. Events like tonight kind of help speed up that process of giving Solskjaer the self-confidence to make the changes that he feels he needs to make. Is that kind of... It's a double-edged sword, obviously, because with every second that you progress in the tournament, the expectations go up and up and up, and it means that the base underneath it needs to be fixed as quickly as you possibly can. So there's less time for the team to be in transition, I think, is the point I'm trying to make there.
Yeah, but it's still in transition because United have recruited such patchy success in the post-Ferguson years. Not that every Ferguson signing was a success either, but the competition's tougher. When United were so dominant in the 90s, it was only really Arsenal. United could go to Tottenham and buy their best players. They could buy Berbatov, they could get Carrick in, and that's not going to happen now because all the Premier League teams are far wealthier. Bournemouth can outbid AC Milan for a player, and City have obviously very well resourced. So are Chelsea under Abramovich. Liverpool are recruiting really smartly as well. Liverpool have really got their act together. They've expanded the stadium. The recruitment's better. I did a big piece on Liverpool at the start of the year, and I got lots of inside information there. And when they went for Van Dijk, they were derided for paying so much. Actually, Liverpool were prepared to pay more for him, and that's been vindicated because he's brilliant. you look at United's recruitment, it's been a real mixed bag. So the club are looking at appointing a sporting director. Commercially, they're still doing very well, but there's lots of side issues. Old Trafford's starting to fray a little bit. It's still a great stadium. It's still a very good stadium, but it's not the best stadium as it long was. And when you compare United to Barca and Madrid, they're probably the three biggest clubs in the world. United are a long way behind. Maybe not Madrid this season, but Madrid have won 4 out of the last 5 European Cups, and Barca have just got better players. And yet I'm saying all this, I don't think United will go through. I didn't think they'd go through against Paris either. But I love Solskjaer's confidence. I love the fact that after they'd been outclassed at home to PSG, he said mountains are there to be climbed. Whereas when I asked Mourinho in Sevilla a year ago about reaching the quarter-final stage, he almost said, we're not going to get there, we're not good enough. So he talked himself out of the game before it had even started. Solskjaer is cut from a different cloth. The players are urging support, and all that will help. But the second leg being at Camp Nou, that is a killer, because I see how good Barca are at home. They soak up the first 10 minutes, and then they just work through the gears, and by the 25th minute, they're absolutely brilliant. But then again, so were PSG, and look what happened there. This is why we love football. You never fully know, and United have got a lot of very, very good players. It's not a vintage team, but individually, look at the names. Pogba, De Gea, Rashford. These are top-class players. I did 2 hours of Catalan radio last night, and they were raving about Marcus Rashford more than anyone I've heard in Manchester. So sometimes the grass is always greener. Although Messi, whichever way you look at him, is the best player in the world.
Yeah, it's when you finish the sentence like that, it's hard to counteract it. Just to talk briefly about the director of football gig, is anybody from the class of '92 being lined up for that? Is Gary Neville a potential recruitee there? No,
is a very simple answer. I think Gary would be excellent at doing that job, but he's not going to do that job, which is a shame. I think the more of those lads could be involved, the better. But it's just how it is. I think they're going to look internally. Or I think they're not going to look at Paul Mitchell. I think they felt that he was someone who put himself in the frame for the job. There are a couple of internal candidates, but also they're looking externally. But the longer it goes on, the more there are doubts among the fans. But I'm assured that it is going to happen, and it's going to be someone who works alongside Ole Gunnar and Ed Woodward. It's not a buffer between the two. And I think just in terms of the sheer administrative load, it is something which is needed, because United are now a club of 700 people. The staff is absolutely massive, and it's great to see Solskjaer in Camp Nou on Saturday night watching the game, but he needs help. If there's a brilliant fullback in Palermo or in Nantes, United, a sporting director needs to be so plugged in that he not only knows who the player is, he knows who the agent is, he knows that Manchester City are looking at him, and so are Juventus. And United have been lacking that sharpness in recent years, and that showed in the recruitment.
How important is top four for them?
Exceptionally so. It's a club structured towards top four European Champions League football. The wages, the way that the sponsorship deals are done, the whole structure of the club is about playing Champions League football. And when they're not in there, suddenly when United are trying to sell sponsorship packages by saying we're the greatest, biggest club in the world, people are saying, well, you finished sixth in the league and you're playing in the Europa League. You get away with that maybe once or twice, but they've got to be in there. And the players' wages drop massively if they are not in the Champions League. It's going to be difficult, but then in December it's going to be exceptionally difficult. So just for Ole Gunnar to get the team back into the frame of the Champions League is to his credit. Of course, he could win the European Cup this year in Madrid, but one of my mates, a Manchester City fan, he's already booked his hotel in Madrid, and against such confidence, it's going to be impossible for Manchester United.
Very good. I think it's okay for the neutrals to be booking their hotels in Madrid. Who's going to look after Messi tonight? Whose job is that?
I wrote a piece yesterday where everyone looked after him in 2008, and I spoke to loads of the people who were involved in that game, and Carlos Queiroz probably came out of his best, because his attention to detail, his absolute obsession with beating Barcelona extended to putting placemats on the floor of the position of every Barcelona player. And Queiroz was a very smart. With Messi, I think if you're hard and clean on him, you've got half a chance, but he can just accelerate, he can just produce the magic. I was in Camp Nou on Saturday, and he did to two of the best defenders in the world, Jimenez and Godin at Atletico. He just left them confused by the end of the match. He finally got his break, he wore them down. He'd done it against Villarreal a couple of days previous. Chris Smalling says, bring it on. I love that attitude. And Chris Smalling had some very good games. He was man of the match against Chelsea away in the FA Cup, but he's not quite at the level of Messi. And I just wish them well, because I'm looking forward to it, but it really is daunting, because Barca were pretty poor away from home last year in Europe. They weren't scoring goals. They've not gone beyond the last 8 since 2015 when they won it. The players started to look exhausted and fatigued in April. But Messi has played 1,000 minutes less than this time last season. Suarez has come into form. The stars are really aligning for Barcelona, and I'm going to stop building them up right this second and get on a plane and go and watch Manchester United hopefully turn up.
Enjoy it, Andy. Thanks, mate, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Andy Mitten of United We Stand there, and you can read his cover story in 442 as well.